So I learned something very powerful on Monday. Don't ever give this guy an idea if you're not prepared to go to bat immediately. Okay? And so John's standing out in the front yard with me, and I'm bouncing some ideas off of him because some of the things that he's been talking about lately have really meshed really well with some of the things that have been going on in my life and some of the avenues that I've been exploring. So I invited him over to the house, and we started talking, and it turned into me doing something that I've never done before, and I like that. I like being forced to step outside my box. So Rexanne and I have this couples ministry video thing that we've been doing on the internet since, August of last year? So being in front of the camera and talking is not unusual for me, but it's always just her. Or occasionally if my mom comes over, she can sit in the corner quietly, and that's our entire audience. So this is the first time I've ever done this in front of a group of people. And normally I just kind of wing it. I'm like, nah, I'll just wait and see what happens and let the Spirit move me. And sometimes I do it for 20 minutes, and sometimes it goes on for an hour and 45. Just depends on how it works. So to give you guys an idea, Rexanne said, are you going to put together some notes, or are you just going to wing it? And I thought, well, I'll just wing it. And then I thought, well, maybe I should put together some notes. So I sat down today and started putting together some notes. And I told John when I got here,
oh, no.
I said, but wait, hang on. I had you guys in mind. I had you guys in mind. I can land it on page number 4 and we'll be okay. Or I can land it on page number 8 and we'll be okay. Or I can bring Rexanne up and we can go 8+. It's up to you guys. Okay? But when I started thinking about how am I going to give a testimony, I've never done this. I mean, I've been in churches and seen, the guy with the tattoos who talks about he drank too much and chased women half his life. And then I realized, hey, I kind of look like that guy that I saw give that testimony one time, so maybe I do know a little more about this than I thought I did. But I thought, well, what's John going to expect from me? So let me dig and find out what is a testimony. So I started with the dictionary. That's a good place to go if you want to find out what something is. There's 2 definitions for testimony that stood out to me in the dictionary. A testimony is something that someone says, especially in a court of law, while formally promising to tell the truth. Okay. Then another one jumped out at me and it said a testimony is proof or evidence that something exists or is true. I thought, okay, so a testimony is the truth. Right. I can deal with that. That starts to make sense to me. So then I thought, okay, now I know what it is. Why? Why should we testify? And John mentioned a little bit of this in his statement about why I was here. So then I start digging into the Bible. And Mark 5:19, and this is written in red in my Bible, and I don't know how your Bible's laid out, but the stuff that's written in red seems important to me. Because I'm kind of new at to this whole thing. I've been in the Bible for way less than a year, but right away I realized that the red stuff was important. So Mark 5:19 says, go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord had mercy on you. Wow. Okay? So that's a pretty direct commandment to testify, right? Go home and tell your friends all the great things that the Lord has done for you. Now, in order to understand the power of this statement, and he's already doing it, you need to understand what else was going on in Mark 5. And the best picture that I can give you, because I don't know the chapter and verse stuff very well, but I get the concept. So I'm going to paint a picture for you. If you can imagine that the disciples had gone out on a mission trip with Jesus. And when people go on mission trips, they keep a mission journal. So they're writing down things that go on day to day. So when they get back to their home church, they can share that testimony with people. Well, in Mark chapter 5, if the disciples had been doing a mission trip journal, they would have all entitled this one, Mark 5, the mission trip from hell, double underline, 2 exclamation marks. Because they were out on the ship, and the storm was tossing them back and forth. So they would have written down there, we are in the worst storm that we have ever been in our life. Everybody is afraid that we're going to die. And Jesus is sleeping. But we woke him up, and true to form, he calmed the sea. We glide right into shore. We jump out. We are so thankful that our feet are on dry ground. We are just praising the Lord the whole time. And then it shows up. A beast of a man, naked and possessed by 2,000 demons, starts running toward him, right? This is a mission trip from hell. We just survived the storm, and now hell is charging toward us. And he falls down at Jesus' feet, and he asks Jesus, take these demons out of me. And Jesus did, because here's another thing, that there's so many things that are in the Bible that I see manifested in the world around us. Like, there's no coincidence that we have 12 disciples, and addiction and recovery programs have 12 steps. There's a reason for that. But this guy has a legion of demons in one man. He gets a group discount wherever he goes, right? He falls down at Jesus' feet, and Jesus says, I got the one-step program. Out. And 2,000 demons leave him, invade pigs, and the pigs run in the ocean and drown themselves. Now, the people who are sitting up on the hill watching this, they're not on the mission trip with Jesus, right? So they don't know what's going on. They go back to the village and tell their testimony to the people. And so in the meantime, Jesus is talking to this guy because he's no longer demon-possessed, and somehow they get him clothes, and that's fine. And Jesus says, go back to your village. Go ahead of us. We're going to follow you. So he goes back, and they are more terrified of him in his current state than they were when he was running around eating their dogs and cats naked in the street. And they said, you and whoever did that to those pigs, get out of here. We don't want you anywhere near us. So they met him on the road, and they said, you got to take him with you and go. And he said, I want to go. I want to go. You got rid of the demons. I want to go. And Jesus says, no. You can't go with us. You have to go back and tell your friends about how merciful the Lord has been in your life. You have to go and testify. And you got to think the disciples are going, wait a minute. Of all the people who have come to us, maybe we need to hang on to this guy for a minute, right? Because if he came in here, we'd have him in Christian counseling for a year or two, right? Before we let him go out and witness and do things like that, right? No. Jesus said, you're all right. 20 minutes ago you had the demons in him. You're good. You went through the Jesus Christ one-step program. Now I'm going to make you the Christian evangelical director for the entire region. Go get them. We're out of here. Right?
Right.
Exactly. Because testimony is that powerful. Now let me tell you another reason why we do it. Because it's truth. Okay? There's another thing in the Bible that is truth. That brings us to 1 John 5, 7 through 8. Give me away. Holler when you're with me.
I'm with you.
Okay. And it is the Spirit who testifies, because the Spirit is the truth. All right? So let's back up a minute. What is testimony? Testimony is the truth, and the Spirit is the truth. So is it okay to assume that when you're testifying, that is the Spirit speaking the truth? I think so, because I got a couple more verses to back that up. But it also goes on to say, for there are three that testify, the Spirit and the water and the blood, and these three are in agreement. Every time I get into the Bible, I find that I am drawn to this concept of people coming together in agreement, because I really, really feel like that is a hugely powerful thing that we can do when two or more come together in agreement. Which brings me to Matthew 8, 19 through 20, where Jesus tells us that where two or more are gathered in agreement, again, this is in red, Jesus said, I am there. So I'm thinking, okay, so if I'm giving testimony, and that's truth, and I've got the Spirit on me, and he's bringing more truth into this deal. And because the Spirit and the water and the blood are all in agreement and we're all doing this together, Jesus is witnessing my testimony. That's how I went from taking notes to 8 pages. Because I'm thinking, okay, I got to cover this pretty deep. Are you with me? You got to look.
I'm with you.
Okay. So now I'm down to when should we testify? Because I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to talk about? Most of the time when you hear that so-and-so is giving their testimony, you think, okay, this is going to be the salvation testimony, because that's the big one. That's the one that we expect. And it is extremely important, because I firmly believe that when you're talking to a group of people and you're giving your personal testimony, when your level of anointing on that topic reaches their level of bondage, miracles happen in their life. That is exactly why you have to do it, because when that level of grace in your life matches their level of bondage in theirs. You get on the internet and start researching stuff, and there is testimony after testimony after testimony of people who have been healed, not because somebody prayed over them and not because somebody laid hands on them, but because they heard a testimony of somebody else who was healed. So you talk about that ripple effect moving out into the world. Whew! Testimony. Powerful, powerful thing.
Good word.
I believe that we should testify to each other anytime we have a shun, a salvation, a revelation, a conversion. Okay? So what's the lesson here? Anyone? You're participating. I like that, but I see what you get when you're up here, though, because they're like, I don't know, there's a lesson. Never shun an opportunity to testify. That's the lesson. Okay? So we've talked about what testimony is. Testimony is truth. I've talked about why, because Jesus said so, and He has promised to be with us. Those are two perfectly good reasons. And we talked about when you should testify. Anytime you have a shun, communication, direct shun. You like that? I knew you would.
I love it.
Now we get into the power of testimony. And Revelation is a wonderful place to go for the biggest blockbuster of testimonies ever. John had a front row seat for an end-of-the-world battle. And notice I said had a front row seat, okay, because all of that has already happened. And our biggest problem here, okay, is that we use disaster, okay? We as a people almost worship global warming as a sign of the coming of Christ, and we have to stop doing that. And I said to you the other night, in the Bible, how many storms did Jesus bless? None. He calmed every one that He came in contact with. Tornadoes, floods, and earthquakes. That's not a work of God.
There you go. Come on.
Okay? It is not. And we have to stop looking at wars and disasters and strife as a sign of the coming Christ, because all that is in the past. God has a much bigger mission for the bride here on earth, okay, than to have us sitting around worshiping global warming as a sign of the coming Christ. Using our gifts to bring heaven into the earth, that is our mission. Our destiny is to go to heaven. Our mission is to bring heaven here today. And we do that through doing exactly what I'm doing right up here. You get something that is important to you, you make a bunch of notes, you get a bunch of people together, and you stumble through it. That's the easiest way to do it because it is powerful. And we're going to talk about how very powerful it is. Okay? But before I get into Revelation, I want to ask you, who here likes blessings? You can raise your hand, even the Baptist. I really, really like blessings, okay? And there's a powerful, powerful promise of blessings in the prologue to the book of Revelation. And I know you because you're the Cliff Notes guy, and you skip past the prologue. Give me the short version, cut to the chase. I don't need the prologue, so I'm going to prologue you here today. Revelation 1. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave Him to show His servants what must soon take place. He made it known by sending His angel to the servant John. Revelation 2. Who testifies to everything he saw, that is the Word of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. So you got to think about John for a moment. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen an IMAX movie, but they're pretty impressive. They are pretty impressive. So John is there, and he's got an angel with him. And he is witnessing all of this unfold in super duper natural reality. And he's got the Word of God in this ear and the testimony of Jesus in this one.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, you talk about all senses involved, engaged in what's going on. But here's what's really cool. I love this about Revelations. Okay? The third verse brings me back to Revelation more than anything else. And the third verse says this: Blessed is he who reads aloud these words of prophecy, and blessed are those who hear them and take heart in what is written. You need a blessing in your life? Because we got the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for they inherit for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. And blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And because I had to read that, I would have never graduated from catechism class, because I think you have to memorize those. All of those require something to happen. Okay, so if you're ever having a day when you don't think you got the energy to create peace in the world, you got a promise over here. Get your family together and start reading from Revelation. It says it right here. Blessed is he who reads it and he who hears it and takes it to heart.
Wow.
To me, that's great. You ever need a blessing boost in your life? It's right there. 3rd verse of Revelations will do it for you. So, what do you think I'm about to do? About to read some Revelations for you, because this is where you really get a picture of how very powerful testimony is. Then a war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. And then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, and that's also in red, and I'm thinking that the loud voice in heaven would be the loud voice in heaven, so it's really, really important. And it said, Now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God, and the authority of his Messiah, for the accuser of our brothers and sisters, who accuses them before our God day and night, has been hurled down. Pay attention to this one, because Revelation 11 is very powerful. They triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. So when you think about Michael and the angels whooping the devil out of heaven, I mean, you almost think about like swords and shields and all this. That's not what it says. It doesn't say that there was a sword or a shield involved. It said they triumphed over him with 2 things: the blood and testimony. What 2 things do we have at our disposal at any moment? Blood and the testimony, right? Keep that in mind, because we're going to need it, because it's not the end of the story. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has gone down to you, and he is filled with fury, because he knows that his time is short. That sounds really bad. Because I'm thinking a dragon would be bad enough, but a demonic dragon that just got beat out of heaven and hurled to the earth. I mean, you can think about, when we were kids, we were kind of mean, but you could take a cat and kind of shake him a little bit and then throw him on another cat, and you had a fight. Right? So I'm thinking if you took a devil and shook him a little bit and then threw him on the earth, he's going to attack anything that gets close to him, right? Because devils and cats are kind of like the same thing. But then I got to thinking, wait a minute, he was hurled on the earth. On the earth. Where have I heard that before? Matthew 6:10. And you know how I always remember that? Because I think about Matt, the weather guy from Channel 9, and when God's will comes to earth, right? He's going to be reporting it at 6 and 10. Right? Because he's a meteorologist. So when all that stuff that they talk about in Revelations and all these firebombs are coming down, Matt, the meteorologist, is going to be on at 6 and 10. I promise you. So anyway, the power of testimony is that it destroys evil. It's normal for Christians to believe that evil cannot abide in the air filled with the truth of a Spirit-filled, Jesus-blessed testimony. Revelations 11 says it. And so we can be blessed once again and see how that promise works. He made it. Hey, I'm just living by his rules. Okay? And I'm going to tell you again, they triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. They triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. Testimony is a very powerful tool. We need powerful tools because there is a demonic dragon who just got beat out of heaven by a legion of angels, and he is injured, he is angry, and he knows that one day the Son of God, the Son of Mary, and our elder brother will come down and crush his head with the Lord's burnished bronze heel. Those are promises you can live by. So the dragon will lash out and attempt to destroy any and everything in his reach, but we have two things here that defeated him there, the blood of the Lamb and our testimony, on earth as it is in heaven. So if you don't have those two weapons, I have some good news and I have some bad news. The bad news is that you're defenseless against the dragon, but the good news is that Jesus is ready to give you both of those right here, right now. All you have to do is receive it. That's page 4. We can land it right here. Or if you're thirsty and hungry for righteousness, we can continue. Can I get an amen? My testimony, which is probably what you were expecting, but I had to lay a little groundwork. On or about the spring of 1984, I was 14 years old, and my family we were semi-regular attendees at New Liberty Baptist Church in Vardaman, Mississippi. Brother Clarence Cooper, II, was a great leader, and New Liberty had a great youth program. Since I was a youth at the time, this worked to my advantage. I had this church thing figured out. If you could put up with a little erratic church going, you could reap the benefits of youth trips and activities. I seriously thought that singing in the Christmas program was the price I had to pay to go to the retreat in Gulf Shores in the summer. Gulf Shores was great. And if you could put up with some pretty entertaining church stuff, you could go swimming in the ocean. Well, not really the ocean. It's called Gulf Shores, not Ocean Shores, for a reason. The only thing crystal clear and tinted blue are some of the stained glass windows and none of the water. Amen. Right? So I lived for Halloween haunted house and camping trips and beach adventures. I'm not sure that I'm entirely different from most 14-year-olds in most churches. I do not envy the youth minister in 1984, and I think youth ministers in 2014 should receive extra blessings for extremely hazardous duty. I don't know how they do it, but I do know why they do it. They do it hoping that one word, one seed will fall on fertile ground. They know that most every seed is going to be swept away, and some will sprout in that shallow dirt between the rocks. One of those seeds took root in me during the spring revival, and I marched down the aisle, and I confessed my sins, and I repented as best I could, and I was baptized. Then things got weird. See, my friends who had done this very same thing that I did, they told stories of wonderful changes in their life. I didn't experience any of this. I mean, the night that I came to the altar and the whole congregation was moving and hugging me and laughing and smiling and crying, and I looked out into the sanctuary and I could see the joy of the Lord hovering over the room, and I thought, wow, so this is what it's like to be a Christian. Cool. And then I went home, and nothing changed. I woke up the next morning in the same old bed, and worse, in the same old head. All the doubt was still there, all the fear, all the confusion, the pain, and on top of all of it, I now had this tremendous guilt for somehow messing up what Jesus had given me. So I took this failure and I put it in that dark, secret place inside, and I've never mentioned it to anyone. You're the first to hear it. The next 30 years of my life was a roller coaster of pain and pleasure. I caused a lot of pain, and I indulged in a lot of empty pleasures. I've been unhappily married 3 times. The first 2 ended because I was unfaithful. I drank too much. I assumed zero responsibility for anything other than what I wanted when I wanted it. The third marriage, we were about as equally yoked as I could imagine. I mean, we shared the same views on religion, which were none at all. And when we met, she was a recovering alcoholic, and I needed to stop drinking. She gave me the strength to do that. I'd finally found someone that meant more to me than drinking. It was a win-win in my book. The problem came when my business failed, and I shrugged off all responsibility for a year and a half. I drank more, I fished more, I hunted more, but that's all I did. This was the excuse she needed to start drinking, and that was the beginning of the end of our relationship. Then one night I was wasting time on Facebook, and I received a notice that one of my friends had changed their relationship status. Now, let me give you a little backstory on this. See, I went to school with this girl, and I was aware of her. Boy, oh boy, was I aware. But she was totally and blissfully unaware of me. Welcome to high school, right? I know what you're thinking. Go up and ask her. Make her aware. You certainly have no problem saying what's on your mind. Go speak when. The problem was that she was a church girl, and she hung out with church girls, and I was not a church anything. Looking back, I am sure that it was the light in her that was repelling the darkness in me. But back to Facebook. Rexanne changed her relationship status from married to single. Thankfully, she avoided "it's complicated." Because let me give you some advice. If anyone ever changes their relationship status to "it's complicated" and you're single and seeking, run. Pray for them, but run. And that's my rule, and it has absolutely nothing to do with Scripture. But I did ask her some very important questions like, do you drink and how many antidepressants are you on? She passed the test. Or rather, I passed the test, and the Holy Spirit let me move into her life. I'm not sure when Rexanne prayed me into her life, but I suspect it was well before she changed her relationship status on Facebook. Only she knows the answer to that question, but I'm 100% convinced. To borrow a term from a man that I hold in highest regard, very truly I tell you, her prayers saved my life. July 2013, we're in the Dominican Republic, and God put a grip on my heart. And it was like a fierce battle broke out. See, I'd spent almost 30 years building my own religion. I was the main character in Jasonism. I had taken pieces of the Bible and pieces of Hinduism and pieces of Buddhism and pieces of science and a ton of stuff that I simply made up on my own and created the single most dangerous idol worship in the world. I thought I was worshiping God. I would ask God for things and I'd give thanks. We're reminded in Matthew 15:9, they worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules. One of my biggest mistakes was actually believing and saying, I am good. See, that's a lie that the serpent whispers. I am good. I feed the hungry. I'm good. I clothe the naked. I'm good. I don't break any of the really important commandments. I'm good because I do more good things than bad things. The problem with the I am good mantra is that Satan knows that it will eventually lead into this trap. I am G-O-O-D. I am G-O-O-D. I am G-O-D. And that breaks the first commandment, and that will get you the same punishment that it has gotten every person since the beginning of time who put I over God. So in the Dominican Republic, God's convicted my heart. Rexanne's praying and laying hands on me while I'm sleeping. And I'm waking up every 4 hours, and I'm bouncing from pure joy to pure torment. When I finally figure out that I'm not going insane and I'm not dying, this has to be God at work.
I wasn't convinced yet about the insanity part.
Well, I had decided that the best thing for me to do was get into the Bible. But I don't have one. And I can't go next door and borrow one because I no speak Spanish too mucho. That's a quandary, right? I mean, you need one. But looking back on it, maybe I should have gone and gotten it because I think the Holy Spirit probably would have revealed some stuff to me there. But I went with what I knew, and I said, okay, well, I got my phone, I got internet, I can find whatever I need. So I jump on Google, and I type in Audio Bible, and the first thing that popped up was what I started listening to. And it was, I mean, this audio thing that I'm listening to, I've done the Bible front to back, left to right, randomly, sequentially, in every way that you can think of, and it always rewards me because it doesn't matter if it's written or read, the Bible is never changing and it is ever changing. Obviously, God won in the Caribbean, and God continues to win in every aspect of our lives. On September 14th, 2013, I became a bride, and I married my bride. Now, I'll give you a few seconds to process that one. Extra points if you can shout the answer out loud. I became a bride, and I married mine on the same day.
Saved the same day you were married.
That's right. Let me tell you why, though. To make sure that we were not unequally yoked, I walked down to the water and rededicated my life to Jesus and put on that gentle yoke before I made my last till death do us part promise before God. If God can do that with someone as deserving as hell as I am, He can do greater things with you and through you. Let's talk a little bit about what I've learned. When I was struggling in the Dominican Republic, God sent angels to attend to us. I firmly believe this. We were stuck in a bus terminal, and I was so confused I could not communicate well enough to get us to the next leg, get us through to the next leg in our house. I remembered that I had met a really helpful man once, and I had his number in my phone. He worked at the bus terminal, and I told Rexanne that we'd be okay and William would help. I called him, and he came to help us. I know that William is an angel, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. Our problem was that there were no available seats on the bus. There was one seat on this bus and one on the next bus in 4 hours. That meant that one of us would have to go and one would have to wait and go later. So how would you handle that? Would you leave your wife, who speaks zero Spanish, in a bus station for 4 hours to get the next bus, or would you send her to the next city that's 120 miles away? And which one of you takes the only phone that has a charge and works in the Dominican Republic? In these situations, the only thing you can do is ask for help, right? So that's what we did. William comes and puts someone with Rexanne while she waits with our bags. He sends another person with me to go to the ATM 5 blocks away to get money, and William begins to work to get us both a seat on the same bus. Now, this little guy comes, and I kid you not, he was about this tall. And William explains to him that I need to go to the ATM machine. And he takes one look at me, and he starts walking. And this guy is walking with pride and determination. And I am going, what in the world is going on here? You would have thought that he was walking the governor down the street. And in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, you have to understand, the traffic it's traffic anarchy. I mean, they have traffic lights and stuff like that, but no one pays attention to them, and it's just cars going and coming, going and coming. I know exactly what people felt like when Moses parted the Red Sea, because this little guy parted traffic. And he's walking at a fast clip, and we never checked up. We would get to the street, and obviously we had to cross, and I'm going, he ain't even stopping. He is not even slowing down. And that is how we crossed every single street for 5 blocks. He never stopped, and we just walked. And I don't know what happened to the cars, but none of them hit us. It was the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. So when we returned to the bus terminal, William had everything sorted out. And I heard him say to the people who were loading the luggage on the bus in English, I heard it in English. I'm sure he didn't speak English because none of them spoke English. He said, "These two stay together." So how do I know that William is an angel? Before we left, he took me to show me where to find him if I ever needed him again. It's a little white building that sits out in the edge of the parking lot, like the security booth for the parking area. And I asked him, I said, "Well, what hours do you work?" And he said, "I'm here all day and all night, every day and every night." And I don't know any humans who work 24/7, 365 and can create seats on buses where none exist 20 minutes earlier. Do you?
Wow.
Well, if you do, you met another angel. So this brings me to forging strong families. And if you guys will indulge us for just a few more minutes, I'd like to bring Roxanne up so we can talk about how we've been moved to minister in marriages and why we really feel like that this is important. Do you want to get that mic?
No, it's still on.
And I'll tell you right now, she would not rather be scuba diving than where she is right here, right now. When Roxanne and I agreed to get married, because I have 3 unhappy marriages behind me and Roxanne has 2, we agreed that we were going to do this the right way. And we were going to get into the best marriage manual that has ever been written. And it wasn't written by a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist. It was written by God, God. And that's what we do. And we endeavor to do that every day. And we miss the mark way more than we hit it. But we do it every day. And we have been drawn, called, compelled, however you want to look at it, to take the things that we learn and the things that we live and to put them out there. Because if you look back in the book, when the serpent got into the garden, he recognized what was the most powerful thing in the garden, and he attacked that first. And that is the relationship between the husband and the wife. And he does crazy things every day to attack that in our home and in your home and in the homes of people all over the world. And that is why 50% of first marriages end in divorce, because it is the most attacked thing. I mean, it was the first thing and it'll be the last thing. He will go down fighting and attacking families, and we are going to do everything that we can possibly do with the power of the Holy Spirit in us to make sure that we fight back.
I didn't know I was going to talk. He had notes. How fair is that?
This is the first time she's heard this too, so she gets to wing it.
And I'm the one that doesn't like to talk in public, and he does such a great job of it. It was actually October when we started our couples ministry of last year. And I told Jason, I said, I think God is leading us to use the Love Dare book to help other couples. Since we're so sure, that that's something we need to do to help our marriage survive, we need to share that with other couples. Jason was immediately like, oh, I don't know about that. He was so not into that idea, but he had enough prompting from the Holy Spirit, and he said, okay. Now that's way outside of his box, because when Jason was first saved, I said something, and he said, oh, no, I'm saved, but I'm just going to keep that here with me. I'm not going to, share it with anybody. And I'm like, okay.
Well, because someone asked me one time, they said, do you have a personal relationship with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? And then when I had one, I kind of wanted to keep that personal. And then it was kind of like a $20 bill when you're 10 years old, and it started burning a hole in my pocket. And I thought, I got to give this away.
There you go.
Because you know what happens when you give it away? You get it back.
Hold on, you're hijacking my thing here. So hold on. Before he decided he had to give it away, he was going to keep it all, and he wasn't going to share it. And I said, okay, because let me tell you what I learned from Jason's salvation experience. And let me say, I grew up in a Baptist church. I had been Baptist all my life until I couldn't take being Baptist anymore, and then we ended up here. If we shared a lot of the things that went on during Jason's salvation experience in the Dominican Republic, I joke about Baptists because that's what I know most. They would say we were crazy. They would say the Bible doesn't say that, so it didn't happen. I was used to seeing people walk the aisle, and that's what salvation was. It doesn't always happen like that. Jason's was, it was an ordeal. It was days long. It was frightening. It was at times, it felt like insanity. There were times I wanted to bang my head against the wall and go, is this ever going to end? Because we would go from absolute certainty as to what was going on to I'm utterly confused. And the very first night when it started and Jason woke me up, I was like, I hoped this day would come. But it was tucked back there. I wasn't sure it would ever come. And when he woke me up, all I knew was when he went back to sleep, I sat up, the hand just like a magnet went to him, and I just started praying. And that was the first.
That was your first experience casting out demons? Well?
Yes. You know, there's always a battle raging, and you don't always get to see it, or you don't realize that you see it. I didn't see God come down from heaven, but I saw God come down from heaven. I didn't see Satan grabbing him on this side, but I saw Satan grab him on that side. And I saw two forces pull him apart, and it lasted for days. And he would be so certain he had come to salvation, and he would be so confused and say, this makes no sense. But see, Jason has a logical mind, and he couldn't make sense of it. And then it was just over. And he fell to his knees, and I knew it was over.
Oh, and let me tell you this. She'll tell you what song was playing. It don't always have to be a church song. You remember? I don't even like Bryan Adams, but I cannot listen to Everything I Do for You the same way again. And the next time you listen to it, you listen to that with the picture of me being convicted and going to my knees in tears and getting up with the joy of the Lord washed all over me, and you'll have a completely different experience. You can't make this stuff up. Bryan Adams.
So that was in July of 2013, and we came home, and things were really slow to, he was changed, but he was still, like I said, holding on to that. He wasn't going to share it. And then something happened. He decided he had to share it, and then we ended up starting our Love Dare ministry online, and I just sat there. He says, I don't even know really all the time what I say. I have to go back and listen to the video because I'm sitting over there going, that's not my husband.
I'd get started, and then that dove would come and light on my shoulder, and then I just couldn't quit. It was amazing.
Those are not the things my husband says. You know, where does he come up with this? He doesn't come up with it himself. It has God written all over it, which told me what we were doing. It confirmed for me that God was all over what we were doing. And
what confirmed it for me is when one of our videos that I never really thought was our better video started getting thousands of people. And I was like, that's it. Because I told her early on, I said, I'm doing this for us so that we stay focused, so that those seeds that are coming out of our mouth have an opportunity to take root and grow in our life. But if there's one word in there that touches one other person in the world, that's a reason enough to do it. And when we get thousands of people who are coming to that, and I don't know why.
So when we started the video ministry, people started to come out of the woodwork. I would get messages on Facebook from people I didn't know. I would get these people telling me all about intimate details about their life and their marriage, and they needed help. And I was like, God, what am I supposed to do with this? We were just doing a video. But you know what? If you just let God lead you, you help people. And they keep coming, and they keep coming, and they keep coming. And now they don't only ask me for marriage advice, they say, please pray for this person. Please pray for this person. Please pray for me for this. I have all these people coming to me that don't know me except for what they see me put on Facebook. In October, I changed what I did on Facebook, and everything became God-centered. If you will take God and put Him in all the areas of your life, every area of your life will come together. You can't hold anything back. You got to give him all of it. And I know there are a lot of people that try to hang on to that one thing. Well, I'm doing good. I've almost given everything to God. But you can't hold on to any of it. And we even struggle with that. We're like everybody else, and we're not immune to anything. We fight Satan daily, because let me tell you what, when you take a stand to help other families, Satan is going to come at you. And there are days he comes at us with a vengeance. And I'm thankful that we have reached a point where we see and we know.
I see it as a confirmation, and it actually strengthens me. So I welcome it, because all he's doing is confirming to me that what I'm doing is right, and I know how this thing is going to end. And eventually, he'll lose interest, or he won't. He'll continue to pump me up and laser beam my focus.
It's not always that easy for me. And that's though when you have two people equally yoked and working towards the same goal, that's where you find clarity and strength. Not too long ago, I had an experience where Satan was hammering me hard, and let me tell you, it started right after we went to Memphis to the Kirk Cameron marriage event, and God saw our marriage even come to a higher level than God, and 3 days later, Satan attacked me like crazy. I ended up here on, I don't even know what night it was, Monday night? A Monday night for a ladies' meeting that ended up not happening, that everybody else knew wasn't happening, except I didn't know. Yeah. But you know what? I knew I was supposed to be here, but I wasn't supposed to be here for the ladies' meeting. I was supposed to be here where I could have one-on-one conversation with my pastor.
What perfect storm of circumstances would have to come together to put these two people together when they were supposed to be here and nobody else?
So
that's a shun right there.
Right.
So be prepared. If you take a stand for God in any capacity, Satan's going to come at you. But we just keep getting bigger and making bigger plans, because God says do it, and we know he's going to come to our rescue when it gets hard. And we are going to start doing here what we have done online, and we call it Fireproof Your Marriage, because the study that we did was originally from the movie Fireproof. We decided, Kirk Cameron may not really like us going too big with his fireproof thing, but we kind of put that idea away, and then God said, it's not fireproof, because you're not just fireproofing your marriage. We are forging strong families, because that is where Satan attacks.
That's right.
He starts with your marriage, and then it filters down. We're both products of broken homes. Our children are products of broken homes. So where does it stop? It won't, unless you take a stand. When you use God and his strength and his power and his might to make it stop. And that's what God's called us to do. So instead of Fireproof Your Marriage, we're now forging strong families, and we hope to take that message here and then out the doors, and to claim the city, and then to claim the county, and then to claim the northern part of the state.
In Jesus' name.
And take back the state of Mississippi. Those families for God. We've had the confirmation from other people that it's going to be bigger than that. Brother John is one of those people, but God has sent us a lot of confirmation, and we know this is where it's all going to start. And I don't know where you wanted to end with this.
Well, just don't think that this is for somebody that's having a problem in their marriage. I mean, we early on we talked about how this is good. If you're trying to turn a bad relationship into a good one, but we really want to see people who are trying to turn a good one into a great one, because that's where the power comes from. So, I mean, we're going to be doing it Wednesday night. We're going to be hooking up in the cafeteria back there until something better comes along, or until we got so many people in it that we need to move back in the cafeteria. But come join us, listen to us, share with us. I mean, we learn as much or more from you than you'll learn from us. We don't have all the answers. We're just here to share what's working in our life and where we see God's hand moving us. And we need you to come and participate with us. But I will share one thing that I forgot to share earlier. When I was in the shower today, I got a prophetic word handed to me, and I do that a lot. I could do a whole thing about how water is important in your life. But anyway, the word that I got was convinced and conversion. And Rexy will start smiling in just a minute. But somebody here tonight needs to hear that eventually you have to be convinced of your own conversion. So I'll let that soak in. Do you want to close us out, Brother John?
I do. I want y'all to stand right there.